Welcome to War Bios, the podcast where we delve into the most pivotal battles in history, examining the strategic context, operational art, and human cost of conflict. I'm your host, General Biography, and today we're going to explore one of the most fascinating battles of the American Civil War, the Battle of Kernstown. This engagement, fought on March 23, 1862, was a pivotal moment in the Shenandoah Valley Campaign, showcasing the tactical innovations and strategic consequences that would come to define the war. As we set the stage for this epic clash, let's transport ourselves to the rolling hills and verdant valleys of Virginia's Shenandoah region. The year is 1862, and the Civil War is still in its early stages. The Confederate Army, under the command of General Stonewall Jackson, has been tasked with defending the valley against the Union Army of the Potomac, led by Major General George McClellan. The Shenandoah Valley, with its fertile soil and strategic location, was a crucial region for both sides, providing a potential route to the Confederate capital in Richmond. In February 1862, General Jackson's forces had been largely driven out of the lower Shenandoah Valley by the Union Army, and he had retreated to the town of Winchester, where he began to regroup and reassess his strategy. Meanwhile, General Banks's Union Army was advancing up the Valley Turnpike, a vital road that connected the towns of Winchester and Staunton. As the Union forces approached, Jackson knew that he had to act quickly to defend the valley and prevent the enemy from gaining control of this critical route. On March 7, 1862, a small force of Confederate cavalry clashed with a detachment of Union infantry near the town of Bloomery Gap, in what would become one of the first encounters between Jackson's and Banks' armies in the Shenandoah Valley. This skirmish marked the beginning of a series of engagements that would ultimately lead to the Battle of Kernstown. As the days passed, Jackson continued to gather intelligence on the Union Army's movements, using his network of scouts and spies to monitor their progress. He became increasingly convinced that a major battle was imminent, and he began to make preparations for a defensive stand near the town of Kernstown. The stage was set for a clash between two determined armies, each with its own unique strengths and weaknesses. The Confederates had the advantage of familiar terrain, with the Blue Ridge Mountains providing a natural barrier to the east and the North Mountain Range shielding their left flank. However, they were outnumbered, with approximately 3,400 troops facing off against around 8,500 Union soldiers. The Union Army, on the other hand, had the benefit of superior numbers and artillery, but they were operating in unfamiliar territory, with limited knowledge of the local roads and topography. As we explore the events leading up to the Battle of Kernstown, it becomes clear that this engagement was not just a simple clash of arms, but rather a complex and multifaceted struggle for control of the Shenandoah Valley. The outcome of this battle would have far-reaching consequences for the war effort as a whole, shaping the course of the conflict in the months and years to come. As we explore the events of that fateful day, it becomes clear that the Battle of Kernstown was a complex and multifaceted struggle. The Confederate forces, consisting of approximately 3,400 troops, were largely composed of inexperienced soldiers, many of whom had never seen combat before. However, they had the advantage of familiar terrain, with the Blue Ridge Mountains providing a natural barrier to the east and the North Mountain Range shielding their left flank. The Union Army, on the other hand, boasted around 8,500 troops, with a significant advantage in artillery. Despite this, they were operating in unfamiliar territory with limited knowledge of the local roads and topography. General Banks, confident in his superior numbers, had planned to attack the Confederate forces head-on, but Jackson had other plans. As the Union Army advanced up the Valley Turnpike, Jackson's forces took up positions on the high ground near Kernstown, anchoring their left flank on the North Mountain Range. The Confederates had carefully prepared defensive positions, including earthworks and trenches, which would provide them with a significant advantage in the coming battle. The fighting began around 11 a.m. as the Union Army launched a series of frontal assaults against the Confederate lines. Despite being outnumbered, the Confederates held firm, with their artillery and infantry working in tandem to devastating effect. The Union troops, meanwhile, were hampered by poor communication and coordination, which led to confusion and disorder on the battlefield. One notable example of the bravery and cunning displayed by the Confederate soldiers was the actions of Captain William Terry, who commanded a battery of artillery during the battle. As the Union Army advanced, Terry's guns poured shot and shell into their ranks, causing widespread destruction and chaos. At one point, Terry even ordered his gunners to fire canister shot at point-blank range, which tore through the Union lines with deadly effect. As the day wore on, it became clear that the Confederate forces were gaining the upper hand. The Union Army, battered and bruised, began to falter and fall back. By around 4 p.m., the battle was all but over, with the Confederates having emerged victorious despite being outnumbered. The significance of the Battle of Kernstown cannot be overstated. Not only did it demonstrate Jackson's tactical genius, but it also showcased the bravery and resilience of the Confederate soldiers. As one historian noted, the Battle of Kernstown was a remarkable achievement, demonstrating that even against overwhelming odds, a well-led and determined force could achieve victory. The Confederate victory would have far-reaching consequences for the war effort as a whole, shaping the course of the conflict in the months and years to come. As the news of the Confederate victory spread, it boosted morale among the Southern troops and civilians alike. The win at Kernstown was seen as a much-needed boost to the Confederacy's fortunes in the region, and it helped to solidify General Stonewall Jackson's reputation as a brilliant tactician. However, the Battle of Kernstown also had significant strategic implications for the war in the Shenandoah Valley. The Confederate victory allowed Jackson to maintain control of the valley, which was a crucial agricultural region that supplied much of the Confederacy's food and supplies. It also gave him the freedom to maneuver his army and launch further attacks against Union forces in the area. In the months that followed, Jackson would go on to win several more victories in the Shenandoah Valley, including the Battle of Front Royal and the Battle of Winchester. These successes would ultimately lead to the Union Army's withdrawal from the valley, giving Jackson control of the region for much of 1862. The legacy of the Battle of Kernstown can also be seen in its impact on the broader narrative of the American Civil War. The battle marked one of the first major Confederate victories in the Eastern Theater, and it set the tone for the rest of the war in the Shenandoah Valley. It also highlighted the importance of the valley as a strategic region, and it led to increased attention and resources being devoted to the area by both the Union and Confederate armies. Today, the Battle of Kernstown is remembered as a pivotal moment in American history, and it is commemorated by several historic sites and museums in the Winchester area. Visitors can tour the battlefield, which has been preserved to show what it looked like during the battle, and they can also see many of the artifacts and relics that were left behind by the soldiers who fought there. The bravery and cunning displayed by the Confederate soldiers, combined with Jackson's tactical genius, made for a truly unforgettable battle. And as we reflect on the significance of this battle, we are reminded of the enduring importance of the Shenandoah Valley in American history. In conclusion, the Battle of Kernstown was a remarkable achievement that showcased the strength and resilience of the Confederate Army in the face of overwhelming odds. Its legacy continues to be felt today, and it remains an important part of our nation's collective memory. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the history of the Battle of Kernstown, and I hope that you have gained a deeper appreciation for this pivotal moment in American history. That's all for today's War Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, I'm General Biography reminding you to keep marching toward victory.